Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. It's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, A Box with No Lid. A channel I've created to not only to delve into the awareness of the day-to-day realities of complex trauma creates, but exploring and understanding the mechanisms behind it, as well as exploring ways of healing and the understandings required for the acknowledgement that we are able to heal. Now, this is part of the adoption series. This is the first video in beyond just the introduction. So please be mindful for anybody associated with adoption that there are triggering components to all of these videos. But as an adoptee, I need to get this stuff out there for the world to understand, but also to create an understanding within our own communities and how we can better connect and heal. Now, the first part of adoption is, what is it? And one of the greatest obstacles is adoption has been marketed for centuries as a fix, as a cure, as a way of solving a problem. And all of us who are adopted or have had children, illegally taken from for adoption, we are grouped in a level of dysfunctionality because we are part of a mechanism that is a solution. Now, there are many, many forms of adoption, but in understanding it, take out the labels in the brochure and look at the simple physical reality. Adoption is the taking of a child, an infant, usually at birth, from their biological family, removing all forms of identity and connection, and giving them or placing them with another family to be raised. It sounds simple enough, but if you look at your own children, and they, especially when they were little, if they got taken, you understand the depths, the potential of harm that it can do. I've had a lot of pro-adoption components go, well, it was necessary, children are abused, blah, 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 blah. Well, you cannot explain that to an infant. All the infant knows is these people that they're placed with are not biologically their own. It is part of this separation. And another thing that not many people are aware of in the process of removing children at birth is, it is an embedded practice that infant has no physical contact with anyone until placement. So the baby goes through the trauma of birth, is cleaned up with people wearing full masks so their eyes cannot be seen. They're gloved. There is no physical contact. They are not physically held. There is no physical form of comfort in any way. Only medical needs are met and required, feeding and changing. But there is no engagement. There is no bonding. There is no safety, connection, or anything, any comfort given to that infant. There is this embedded belief that is more beneficial, so that when that infant is placed with the adoptive family, they will attach and connect. And that is one of the greatest fallacies that has ever existed. It's one of the most harmful fallacies that has ever existed. Because the connection that infant has to the adoption family is a survival script. It's not attachment. It is a connection of they are going to help me survive. It's not that I belong and I am part of. And the reason I'm saying this is for the understanding of where we began. There are many forms of adoption. There are many reasons for it. But adoption is so rife with illegalities and dehumanization that it is my goal through these videos to try to bring that humanity back, to bring that societal understanding of what we go through so that we can be given the grace to learn, heal, and be understood. That where we fall down, and trust me, adoptees, we do fall down in many areas of our lives in connection because of how we began. because of attachment trauma and what that does in how we connect to people, in how our attachment processes are, and how our neurology works with attachment and connection, so that we can be given the grace to learn. Within these videos, I'm going to try to only delve into one triggering aspect per video because of the harshness and hardness of it. But take a moment and understand what that infant who has been taken from their mother and who has no comfort, no comfort at all, placed in a box, which, by the way, is the reason for the name of this channel, The Box with No Lid. The box is that plastic thing that I was placed in. Regardless of justifications, it's still a prison and it's still a box. And that box becomes our entire world neurologically of what we attach to and connect to. Because when they set out this parameter of no contact, no comfort, with the hope of improving the connectability to adoptive parents, it was justified for a day or so. But very, very rarely are infants removed at birth and placed with the adoptive family within 24 hours. More often than not, it's weeks and months. Weeks and months of isolation. Weeks and months of no comfort, of no human engagement, of no, being held, being spoken to. Nothing requires you learning or developing any attachment to being a human being. That is what I want to raise in this first video of understanding. Because every adoptee that goes through an at-birth removal has that. And our coping mechanisms develop in different ways due to how we are connected to our adoptive families and the reasons they wanted to adopt in the first place. And I'll get to that in other videos. But I first just want to touch on what that does in regards to attachment trauma. Every connection we have coming from that ecology, that environment, that beginning, is survival based. Everything that defines us emotionally as a person is removed. Everything that defines our biological felt sense connection to being a person is removed because of that survival. We are just an object in a box. And when we go into the environment of trying to navigate the adoption family, we come at it from the perspective of what do I have to be for them to keep me? Not I'm safe, I belong. And that fundamentally changes attachment. Now, Bowlby and those that developed attachment theory didn't even come close to the degrees of understanding the complexities that are involved with human attachment and how much it is interplayed within all our physiology. Every component of our physical being is engaged to how we attach because it defines threat and safety. Every facet of our being is around defining us as a person to be functional in a society and in a world and to build a functional, productive life. All stems from that point of connection and attachment. And the majority of adoptees, our attachment base and our identity as who we are is something that we ourselves created to survive. It's not actually who we are. Many of us, including myself, we don't truly know who we are because we were never given the opportunity to be. We are so ingrained in being the person that we had to create to be part of. And that is one of the greatest understandings for anybody out there who knows adoptees and who wants to understand us. For those who I've had as part of my life and have not been able to connect to the way I tried to, is we never learn how to because we are not a person. We were defined as an object and we created a persona as an object because we were trying to assess what our adopted family required for us to be part of. We created an avatar on every fundamental level whilst being in a freeze state. When an infant is kept isolated with no comfort for weeks and even months, you're in a permanent freeze state. And because it happens so early, you develop a way of functioning within that freeze state. It fundamentally alters so much of your physiology that this avatar becomes real, but it is still created, and this avatar can only work with what it's learned, what we've been able to learn. So in having that understanding, when you engage with an adoptee, understand that we will struggle in our ways of communicating, dependent upon the degrees of success of a connection with adoption, with the adopted family. But we will always have a pause before a response, because we're assessing how do we word something so that it will be received the way they want it. We're trying to work out what you require from us. And it becomes so ingrained and embedded within us that we don't even know we do it. And I know this is going to piss off, if you putting it bluntly, it's going to piss off some adoptees. But I've been around adoption circles. I was involved in federal state apologies. I was involved in Senate inquiries. I've been around this stuff and advocating for greater understanding for adoption for decades. And I see it in every adoptee forum. I see it play out with every adoptee I've ever talked to and ever come across. We all do it because it's this survival script that's ingrained biologically in us as mammals, that has been built with layers upon layers upon layers of structure that we view as the fog. We call it the fog. And I'll get into more details of that in other videos. But for this one, for all of you out there that are not adoptees, understand how we began, and please give us the grace to learn. And for all of you adoptees out there, we all have a different view of adoption. We all have a different view of how functional and how we view ourselves. But we all have the same beginning. And it's through our understanding each other's beginnings that we can learn better ways of helping all of us. So as always, I enjoy your feedback. Please be safe, be kind, and be well. And I'll see you in the next video. Hope.